Hey, Central Illinois professionals, do you know where people go to learn more about you? They typically either go to your About Us section of your website or your LinkedIn profile. And guess what the first impression is that they see? That's right, it is your professional headshot. Your headshot is part of your brand. Your brand should proudly show the world how passionate you are about delivering quality products and services to your customers. At Studio 21, you won't get the boring old headshots that everyone else has. When you get photos with Melissa Hardin at Studio 21, your headshots will show off your strength, confidence, and approachability. To book a professional headshot appointment for you and your team, call Melissa at 217-962-0048 or visit www.melissamharden.com. That's MELISSAMHARDEN.com. And let Melissa at Studio 21 help you stand out from the crowd.
Welcome to the Central Illinois Business Leaders Podcast, where business owners, thought leaders, and community champions from across Central Illinois come to share their story. The Central Illinois Business Leaders Podcast. Anything less would be uncivilized.
What's up, Central Illinois? I'm Derek Hayden. I'm here with Garrett Ulmer. We are your hosts for the Central Illinois Business Leaders Podcast, powered by Zambu. Zambu is a delicious grapefruit or wildberry vodka-based spirit infused with a Brazilian buzz button. It's smooth, tasty, and leaves you with a signature tingle. Learn more at zambuliquors.com. Zambu, taste the tingle. All right, Central Illinois. Today's guest works in Circadian Health and Performance in Peoria, Illinois. Ladies and gents of Central Illinois, please welcome sleep performance coach Thomas Hinton. How are you doing, Thomas?
I am good. Thanks for having me on.
Absolutely.
Yep. Appreciate you jumping on here.
Yeah, pleasure to have you on. And right before we hit the record button, Thomas, we were talking a little bit about what Garrett and I like to talk about, which is sports. So we apologize to any listeners who are not sports fans, but we might get into sports a little bit. So before we do that, though, Thomas, our last episode, which actually, as of today, has not aired, but it will air before your episode goes live. We changed up our speed round questions. We used to do speed round questions. Now we just have some funny icebreaker questions. And I'm going to ask both you and Garrett these questions just to get both of your points of view. So if you're ready,
how I keep getting thrown into this mix, but
well, I like to put you on the spot. So
yeah, it's like who's the guest here? Is it me or is it Garrett? No,
exactly. Well, you can interview us if you want, Thomas. We can.
There you go. Absolutely.
All right. So first question, I'll ask Thomas first. Thomas, if you could choose any animal as a battle companion, if you're going into a battle, what animal would you choose and why?
What animal would I choose and why? Cheetah.
There we go. Why is that?
Yep. Because it's fast and it's vicious, and it's dangerous, and it can attack fast and get out fast.
There you go.
That's how I am. Like I want to cause as much damage as possible, as much non-life-threatening damage as possible, and then get out.
There you go. Speed kills, man. That's the sports coming out. There we go. Garrett, what do you think?
So I'm going to go sports as well here because, I'm a Ray Lewis linebacker fan here, and he always says the lion. They're not the fastest. They're not the strongest, but you don't put them in a corner because they're going to come out fighting and tear you apart. So I'm going to go with a lion.
Hey, I can't disagree with any of those. All right. Second question. Garrett, you'll go first on this one. If you could have any superpower, what would it be and why?
Ooh. I think I guess that would be in the power of sales, but knowing what other people are thinking when you're, having a conversation with them. So that way, maybe you could
reading minds.
There you go. Yeah, we'll go with that one. That may be good or bad sometimes. I don't know.
That's dangerous. That's dangerous.
Oh, what do you think, Thomas?
Teleportation.
There you go. Yeah, I like both of them.
Yeah,
there was a movie. I can't remember what it was called, but it was a guy that could read women's minds. And
what women think.
Yeah.
What's that?
Yeah, what women think.
Yeah. So yeah, that's what made me think of yours, Garrett. So all right. So Thomas, last question. This is more business related. Right. What business skill do you feel that you are good at that has helped you succeed in your current business?
Passion. My passion, my passion for what I do.
Awesome.
Yep.
Awesome. That's great. Garrett, how about you?
So, it's funny. Derek and I are part of the CEO program here locally in Shelby County. We had a meeting yesterday, and it was called a DISC assessment.
Yeah.
And it bases all off of, and Derek and I are both a high I, which means we like to, be a conversationalist, meet with people, connect with people. So I would say the ability to be able to speak with people that you don't know and, it doesn't make us nervous. So I'm going to go with that.
That's pretty good. Well, hey guys, we flew through those pretty easily. So I like these questions because it makes people think a little bit. So awesome.
Yeah.
Thomas, nice work. What we're going to do now is we're just going to give you the microphone, Thomas. You tell us your story, take us back as far as you'd like, bring us up to speed with what you got going on today.
Yeah, thank you. So yeah, I'll start at Genesis here. So I've been in sleep medicine now, the sleep field, for 15 years. And I started off in the sleep lab. At the time, it was called the I&I Sleep Lab, and it was housed in the 6th floor at OSF. And I did sleep studies, and not diagnosing, the doctors did that, but just running the sleep studies, helping people with their sleep apnea, different things like that. And then that's really where I had the opportunity to really learn and witness the architecture and mechanism behind sleep, or like what it looks like. So I was joking, say like, oh, I've seen sleep, which I have, electrodes, all that stuff.
Yeah.
So that was really cool. And so then just kind of fast forward, just continued education and training. That was like on the neurological. The first half of my career was on the neurological side of sleep. The second half was on the pulmonary side, so more like respiratory focused. And so I was just sort of working day shift. So I, kind of ran the sleep part of the practice for a pulmonologist. And one day, a gentleman's like, "Hey man, you deliver information really well. You should do this for a living." And like, well, I do this for a living. He's like, no, I mean like the business, like entrepreneur, side of it, which, and that scared the crap out of me because I've never even thought of doing anything like that ever. Like go out on my own. What? So I just started researching, and I had a lot of connections and friends who were business owners. Either they did something on the side, or that was their primary thing. And they said, hey, what are the do's and don'ts? How'd you do it? What do I avoid? What can I avoid? Different things like that. And then in July of 19, I launched Circadian Health Systems, LLC. I do business as Circadian Health and Performance.
Cool.
And so then it was crazy is that I came out, January, I got all my ducks in a row. And then January of 2020, I'm like, hey, Circadian Health and Performance. And then March happened.
Yeah.
Right. And we thought it was just going to be like we all thought it was going to be like a 2-3 week thing.
Yeah.
And then we'll get back to it. And then it just took forever. So that really crushed my momentum and, and my traction leading into that. But the second half of 2020 was really, really good for me. And that's really where I just, I started working with some elite athletes, and just did some whale hunting, and boom, next thing you know, I've got Olympians I'm working with. I've got,
wow.
WNBA girls, NBA guys, it's just going crazy. And so now I've got my own brick and mortar space now where I provide like cupping therapy, red light therapy, like different stuff for like rehab and injury prevention, but it's all based around sleep. The foundation is sleep. So that's kind of how it all got started.
That's awesome.
That is pretty cool.
You said a term there that Garrett and I have said before. You said whale hunting. So for those who are not familiar with that term, I know a lot of new business owners are probably scared of this, but tell us a little bit about your thought process behind whale hunting and exactly what it means to you.
Yeah. So for those that don't know, whale hunting is when, if you're like a small business, and you don't really have a lot of, like big clients yet. But then you just go after the big ones, like you just find them and you're like, you know what, I'm just going to go for it. But what's the worst they're going to do? They're going to either A, they're not going to respond, or they're going to say no. Okay. And then you move on, and so I take rejection really, really well. It actually doesn't bother me at all. It really doesn't. Like if I get a no, then, it's not a priority of mine or whatever. It's like, all right, cool. And I just keep it moving. Or if they don't respond, I have a rule where, I'm getting off topic, whale hunting. So sorry, I get a little,
it's all good.
But yeah, so for me, I think it's great. I think it's a good confidence booster. It's a way to kind of shake that nervousness off of like reaching out to people, whatever it is, because you just might get that one that's like, hey, you know what? Let's have that conversation. And so that's what happened with me. Because I tried the whole local thing, and none of the local, like high school, they didn't want to do it. And so I'm like, okay, or they just didn't respond. And so like, you know what, screw it. I'm just gonna start reaching out to, these elite high profile athletes. And then next thing you know, they're like, oh yeah, let's talk about this. And I'm like, wait, what, really? And they're like,
That's
yeah.
awesome.
I'm like, okay. So we have the conversation, and then, either A, they decide, hey, thanks for reaching out, but not a good fit, or, hey, you know what, this is something that I'm struggling with. Let's work together. So the concept of whale hunting is going out and reaching out to, like bigger brands or bigger, clients or companies that you don't really think that you can land, but,
Yeah. No, that's awesome.
Well,
Yeah.
kudos to you, because I feel
Yeah,
like
for sure.
most, people that start out in business or sales for that matter, they're scared to death to jump in, to jump
Yeah.
in the ocean and hunt the whale. And two, you identified your prospect, right? You identified
Yep.
who you wanted to work with. And we feel, all the conversations that Derek and I have, I feel like a lot of business owners at first don't know exactly who they want to target. And I mean, you identified those right out of the gate. So that's awesome.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's awesome. Yeah, and it helps you, I'm sure you're under certain like protections where you can't necessarily share names, but if there is some, you just said it in your intro, I work with Olympians on their sleep habits. So if you are a local athlete, you're like, oh, Thomas works with Olympians. Why wouldn't I want to work with them now? So
Absolutely.
it just gives you notoriety in the industry. Olympians talk to other Olympians, and you're able to build your book of business with your preferred clientele pretty quick. So that's awesome. Kudos to you for
Yeah.
doing that, man.
Oh, I want to piggyback on something you said. So a lot of my clients, they're like, yeah, talk about me, like, name me, do whatever. The only sport, this is really weird, but the only sport that I've had this issue with is the NBA. So,
Really?
so I'm down to one now, but at one point I had like 3 NBA guys,
Okay.
and all 3, like, in their different teams. But all 3 of them, was really weird. What they had me sign NDAs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Where, like, so I couldn't talk about, like, I obviously I couldn't say their names. I couldn't say a team. Like, I can't even like mention like their stats, because if
Oh,
it's
wow.
somehow, it was very
Guys.
well written. If it
Yeah.
somehow gets, if you do the numbers, like, oh, well, that's this person, you know what I mean? Then
Yeah.
then I'm screwed. But it was really weird that's the only sport that I've ever had to do that with.
That's cool.
Everybody else is just like, oh yeah, dude, like, talk about me, do this, do that. But the other guys,
Yeah.
like, no, you don't want that.
Nice.
That's cool. That's cool though. Yeah, that I'm sure that helps. Yeah, getting some other than the NBA clients, it helps you, get some of the other Olympians or whoever it might be in the door. So that's awesome.
Yeah.
While we're on the topic, sports. So we already told the listeners we're going to get to it. We're going to get to it
Yeah.
right now. So how important is sleep to athletes?
Oh my gosh, it's crucial. There's a guy, I can't remember who it was, but he had a quote. He was like, what the most potent performance enhancer that we possess that's free is sleep as athletes.
Mm-hmm.
And so I tell athletes all the time, we and I always say we because I was an athlete, for all my life.
Sure.
But we use and abuse our bodies more than the average person or non-athlete. Therefore, our bodies literally require more recovery and repair time. And the only time that happens is during sleep.
Mm-hmm.
And so a lot of athletes don't understand, even like on the professional level, I've talked to these people, like, you would think that they have all these resources available to them. And some of them still have this mindset of, oh, I get stronger when I'm lifting or whatever. And you're not, you're actually breaking down and tearing, and causing trauma to your muscle fiber and tissue. And the only time that those muscle fibers and tissues fuse back together bigger, harder, and stronger is during sleep.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And so, and it's not just about muscles, it's about the brain, so that the brain literally, it kind of power washes itself, when we sleep, and clears out all those toxins and byproducts that are deposited. So now you're more mentally focused, you're more mentally aware, more mentally energized. Your recall abilities are heightened. Your reaction times are improved. And so there's way too much research and information out there that shows, what the benefit is, speed, strength, I mean, just everything.
Yeah.
And so I customize and I tailor programs specific to the athlete, and then I hold their hand throughout the entire process.
Gotcha. Well, that was kind of leading into my next question. Let's say that I'm a client of yours. We're just meeting. What does the process it look like for, a new client coming on board for you?
Yeah. So the first thing that I do, and I try to do this a lot, because again, like, this is a lot of people, oh, I never heard of that before. They're like, oh, and so I try to have the conversation with them first to give them a better idea of who I am, what I do, and how it benefits them. So before they just write it off, right? So I try to get them on a call like this, a Zoom call or a phone call, just to say, hey, this is who I am, what I'm doing, and then I do a consultation with them. And so the consultations are free. And so that's where I'm gathering information about, I'm learning about you, like your workout habits, when you're going, like when you go to bed, when you wake up, when you're training, when you're practicing, all these different, like how you're eating, all this different stuff. And so then I listen to what you are doing, but I'm also listening to what you're not doing. And so then I take all that information and then I customize a program, and then we get back on another call. We do what I call a program overview, where we do this together, right? Because I don't want to waste my time or the client's time, and then there's a bunch of back and forth. So we're going to agree on it together. And once we agree, like I send it out to you, and then we start, and then we meet, once or twice a week, see what's working, what's not working, what needs tweaked. And then we start talking about, so I have some athletes, like they come to me. Sometimes they'll travel, and that's how I got my space, because they were just like, hey, don't you have somewhere I can come to you? And I was kind of like, no. But then it happened. A good friend of mine who owns a chiropractic office, Dr. Ben Dyke, and his wife, Dr. Jackie Dyke, I rent space out of their Peoria spine and sport business. So awesome. Shouts out to them real quick. But anyway, yeah. So that's how I do it, and then we just get to work.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, that was going to be my question. So it sounds like you can work with people in person or virtually. You can set up a program either way. So for those listening, you may not necessarily have to, if you're in Central Illinois, you may not have to drive to Peoria. If you're outside of Peoria, you can work virtually with Thomas and get some of that sleep coaching as well. So that's awesome. So we've talked about athletes.
Yep.
Now, Garrett and I, we like to consider ourselves athletes. We talk about the glory days quite a bit, but in reality, we are business professionals. Like a lot of people listening to this show right now. I'm sure sleep is just important to business professionals as it is athletes. Tell us a little bit about some of the people you work with outside of sports.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, I work with non-athletes as well. What I call a general population. But I also do, and I'm glad you brought that up, because I also do like presentations for businesses and organizations.
Oh, cool.
And so I did a good one for I think it's Care First. They're an arm of Blue Cross.
Oh, nice.
And it was, and I did it on sleep and workplace performance.
Okay.
And so and that's huge for people in the workplace as well. It's not just athletes. That's just the my biggest client base.
Yeah,
I work with anybody, but it doesn't have it has a huge impact on how you get raises. It has an impact. I mean, the research is there as well. When you're more mentally focused and energized, studies have shown that your salary increases. You get promotions, you get raises, because now you're more engaged. Your thought processes happen a lot quicker, right? You're more engaged with your coworkers. You're treating them better, and different things like that. So it plays a huge factor in the workplace.
Awesome. Okay. Yeah. What's up, Central Illinois? You know what you all need? You all need some CIBL podcast swag. And thanks to our newest sponsor, Jedco Sales, you can now find our swag at CIBLmerch.com. You can find t-shirts, sweatshirts, polos, hats, and more, all classically adorned with our famous CIBL podcast logo. If you want to represent and support your favorite podcast, check out CIBLmerch.com. That's CIBLmerch.com. If you like our store, you can also build your very own business swag store with the help of Jedco Sales in Effingham, Illinois. Jedco is owned by previous CIBL guests, Andrew and Laren Dial. They've set up a special discount offer for CIBL guests and listeners to set up your very own custom branded swag store. You can now offer branded apparel to your employees, customers, and fans, and Jedco will fulfill all the orders for you. Contact Jedco at sales@jedcosales.com. That's sales@JEDCO sales.com, and tell them that Garrett and Derek sent you. Let Jedco help you get noticed.
I'm looking at your website. It's funny that you brought that up, because I was just getting ready to ask you about it. But tell us a little bit about your website. It looks like they can book individual sessions and the workshop and presentations right there online as well, right?
Yeah. So what they'll do is they'll just you can just kind of under where it says contact us, you just fill out your information, send me a message, and then it goes to my email, and it lets me know hey, hey, Garrett has reached out to you. Take a look at his message. And it can be something like, hey, I work with, Zambu, just wanted to see what it would take for you to come in and or to do a virtual thing, for our employees about sleep and workplace performance. So like, what does that look like?
Cool.
And so then we just kind of go back and forth talking about that, and then it just kind of materializes from there.
That's awesome. And it's circadianhealth.org is the website address. And that'll be linked in the show notes below the show here. So for Circadian, just to help people spell it, it's CIRCADIAN health.org. So I know I would have needed someone to spell that for me just to help those out there that need a little help. So, yes. One thing that I find interesting is if you go to 10 different people and you ask them on average how many hours per night they sleep, some will say 10, some might say 4, and in a mix of anywhere in between. How are you able, without giving away your secret sauce, Thomas, how are you able to help people find their ideal sleep amount?
Oh yeah. So it's just based on conversation,
Okay.
And so we all have, I try to figure out what their chronotype is. So for those that don't know, your chronotype is when your body wants to go to sleep and when it wants to wake up. All of ours are different. And so I'm doing a chronotype assessment where I'm asking them the questions. Okay, hey, when are you most productive? What part of the day? And someone say, oh, I'm most productive from 9 a.m. until about 2. Okay, well then schedule the most important tasks of the day during that time, right? Because that's important, because then they get done. Not that the other things outside of that are not important, but you can just kind of coast after that. So I want to know what their chronotype is, so then I know when to start. Okay, well, this is when we need to start preparing for sleep. This is when you need to wake up. Okay, well, when do you wake up? When do you go to sleep? So like I'm asking all these different questions to try to figure out like what their sweet spot is, because it's different for everybody. Because you have those outliers sometimes where they say the average is between 7 to 9 hours. For just for the average adult, but then you have like those outliers that are like, well, I can just do 5, and then they're fine, which is fine. I mean, if that's what works for them, that's what works. There are outliers that their body is designed to do that. Yeah. But for most people, that's just not good for you health wise. Yeah. But anyway, so that's really how how I determine like where to start. And then again, like we just kind of we meet weekly, so we just kind of see what's working and what's not working along the way. Yeah. And once we find it, then we stick to it.
Well, that's cool.
Well, I always find it interesting. Like I follow Joe Rogan a lot, and he always has high performance people on a lot of his shows, and a lot of them talk about their sleep habits and what works. Yep. And just one of the last ones I remember was Elon, and was talking about it, and he was doing 4 to 5 hours, and that wasn't enough. And then so he said the best way he performs was under 6, and it's like you said, everybody's different, and we all perform in different ways. But I always find it interesting to see what high performers look like and what their sleep entails to perform like that.
Brain health. Like the brain health, like I work with MMA fighters, and like the brain health component is like really, really important as well. Because the data just doesn't look good for them either when it, what they do for a living.
Yeah. I remember, so I'm an Illinois football fan, University of Illinois, Fighting Illini. And this was back when Ron Zook was the coach, and he was doing an interview, and someone asked him how much he sleeps at night, because they're like, you do all this and this to recruit, and they're like, do you sleep at night, and how much do you sleep? He goes, I sleep way too much. He's like, I sleep 4 hours a night. And I'm like, way too much, 4 hours. I remember that interview, but I was like, I'm doing okay then if Ron Zook sleeps, But but anyway, I remember that interview, and I can't believe there's people out there that are able to function with 4 hours of sleep day after day. I mean, that's wild to me. Yeah.
It doesn't last long.
No. Well, looking at your website again, you mentioned Peoria City Soccer is kind of how you saw us and kind of heard about us, and Matt Sheehan, and so do you work with any Peoria City soccer athletes?
No, I'd love to.
There we go.
But no, I don't right now. So as a matter of fact, Matt and I we're going to be talking after the new year.
Okay.
He put a little Facebook post out, about like sponsorship or something like that, or partnership, and I was like, hey, let's talk about it. So, see if we can get something done. I mean, I know they have like some on-site stuff, but I'm focused more on like the off-site.
Okay. Yeah.
I do like mental performance stuff and different things like that. So whatever they don't have on site, I would love to provide for them.
Very cool.
Come and see me and get some stuff done.
So it
Awesome.
looks like on your website that you obviously got a Facebook page. Looks like you've got a connection towards Instagram and Twitter as well. So tell us a little bit about, do you utilize social media much? You know, what you like about it and what you kind of do with social media.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, that's where all the athletes are.
Yeah,
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
absolutely.
LinkedIn and Instagram have been my best friend. You know, that's
Okay,
that's
awesome.
where I went whale hunting, was on those two
Yeah.
platforms,
Yeah.
and that's where I started getting all this traction. But yeah, I use Instagram a lot. At least I try to. You know, like I'm kind of stuck on the social media part of it. You know, because I'm the guy I'm providing service to. You know what I mean? So it's kind of hard. But I've been getting a little bit better at it on posting stuff. Like I got a TikTok now, and so that's going really well. But I
Cool.
use these things more mainly for business purposes.
Yeah.
Because like, so, you know, somebody, if you go down that rabbit hole of social media, man, it can get bad. But for business purposes, like it's doing really well for me.
Awesome.
But yeah, I use it as much as I can.
Awesome. Well, I triggered my mind to see what the dates are for the upcoming Olympics. So it's Paris 2024 starts in July.
Yeah, it starts in the summer.
Okay. So will you have any athletes in the Olympics this year?
I'm hoping so.
Yeah.
So there's two of them. Devin Williams, he's a decathlete for
Okay.
U.S. track and field. I've been working with him for like the last two or three seasons,
Okay.
or 2-3 years, I guess. And then Zach Harding, you know, he's a swimmer. He
Okay.
competed in Tokyo.
Awesome.
Back in, I think it was 2021. Yeah, it was 21. It was supposed to be 2020, but they
Yeah.
And so he competed in 21 in Tokyo, and then he's gearing up for a Paris run. So he just got put on the USA swim team on the roster.
Awesome.
So
That's cool.
yeah, it's gonna be super dope. So but yeah, so hopefully I'll have two.
That'd be sweet.
awesome.
That would be
great.
awesome. We've got about 5 minutes left here, and before we jump off, I kind of want to hit on, because again, a lot of our listeners are business leaders, and some of them may have kids or have a busy work life, so their sleep patterns may not be what they could be to have optimal performance.
Yeah.
So is there anything, and again, don't give us your secret sauce, don't
Okay.
don't show us under the hood unless you want to. What are some tips that you would have for people like Garrett and I, who are just, maybe living the glory days, used to be athletes, but now we're actually just, selling insurance policies? What tips would you have for people to help improve their sleep?
Yeah. So like one of the main things is like have a set bedtime and a set wake up time. Tweaking that alone, you know, a lot of times makes a huge difference. Because your body needs to know when it needs to start the process of waking you up while you're still asleep, and what hormones to suppress, what hormones to start releasing, different things like that. Because when you're up and down like that, it's just kind of like, I don't know what to do. But then also to implementing, excuse me, some pre-bedtime routines leading up to bed. You want to create triggers that your body and your brain will recognize leading up to bed, little cues leading up to bed. So then when you enter the sleep environment, you know, or when you start doing these things, your brain's like, oh, this is what we do when we, okay. So then it starts kind of shutting down here and there little by little. And then implement a 30-minute wind down period. Everybody that I work with gets a 30-minute wind down period. So, you set a bedtime, and then 30 minutes before that bedtime, you shut down electronic use, like no screen time. You find something to do that's relaxing, because you have to bring yourself down. And then the last 5 to 10 minutes of that is finished off in the bedroom, because again, you want to create a trigger, right? So what you're going to change into what you're going to sleep in the sleep environment. You know, some people don't sleep in anything. That's fine. You know, so it's just like, hey, when Derek puts this on, he goes here. When Derek takes this off, he goes here. And so you want to create, create those cues for your body to recognize leading up to bed. So
awesome. Well,
sounds like a lot of other processes and procedures, structure, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it takes discipline, though. You have to be disciplined, to do that. So
yeah.
It's a lot.
I have heard that reading before bed may not be the best thing because it makes your mind work. Have you heard that before?
Yeah, I've heard both sides of it. Like the data's always information is always changing in the sleep world.
Yeah.
Like it used to be where like the blue light from your device was suppressing, your melatonin release, but now they say it's not. But it's more, it's just the activity of what you're doing that's causing you not to go to sleep. So it's always changing. So like I have some people that read and then like, oh man, I read and I start getting drowsy, and then they're out. I have some people say, well, it depends on the book. If I'm reading something like exciting, then it's just like, oh man, and then they're wired. So it just depends on what everybody, like I said, everybody's different. So
yeah. I have noticed I will not do any work like after dinner. I don't, unless it's an emergency.
Yeah.
But as far as answering emails, because then when I go to bed, that's all I'm thinking about is, is that person going to be okay? Are they, or do we take care of them? And that's one thing that I've stopped. I was like, I will wake up early in the morning if I need to take care of something, but I'm not going to do it right now because I won't sleep the rest of the night. So yeah, that's interesting.
Real quick, I want to piggyback on that if I have time. So with that being said, you also don't want to do like stressful things in the sleep environment. So like, don't do finances, don't do homework, don't do work stuff. Like, because what happens is that your brain associates that environment with stress. So then when you enter it to go to sleep, it's like, oh, the last time Garrett was in here, he was stressed out. Let me prepare him for that. So now your adrenaline's going, now your cortisol's up. And then you're laying there like, well, why can't I go to sleep? And then your brain's just like, well, where's the stress at? Like it was here the last 2 times, you know what I mean? And so you want to cultivate an environment where it's only associated with with like sleep and intimacy. Those are the 2 things that it should be associated with.
Sure.
Yeah,
perfect. Well, I like it. Well, Thomas, we're at the 30-minute mark. If someone's listening, they want to reach out to you, what's the best way for them to contact you?
Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, DM me, go to the website, go to contact, fill out the thing, put a message in the box, it'll get sent to me, reach out to me. My number's all over that stuff. So if you see my phone number, text me, whatever, call, and we'll have the conversation.
Awesome. Well, for all you listeners out there, make sure you subscribe to the CIBL podcast on your favorite podcast platform. You can also connect with us on social media, mainly Facebook and LinkedIn. And when you get a chance, check out CIBLmerch.com. Check out our merch, our hats, t-shirts, sweatshirts, all that fun stuff, and get something for your loved one who you want to give the best gift ever to this Christmas season. So, well, I think that's it. Garrett, anything else?
I don't know. I don't think so. Have a great one, Thomas. We appreciate you
Thomas.
coming on.
All right,
I got to give you I'll give the official, you have officially been civilized, Thomas. Thanks for coming on the show.
All right, we'll see you.
Thanks.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the Central Illinois Business Leaders Podcast. You can find us on Facebook at facebook.com/CIBL Podcast. You can also follow us on LinkedIn. Don't forget to subscribe and leave us a review. It's the civilized thing to do.
What's up, Central Illinois business owners? We know that insurance and employee benefits are one of the most expensive, confusing, and frustrating hurdles that you face in your business today. Garrett and I work with Central Illinois businesses to create insurance and risk management programs and employee benefit solutions that reduce risk, enhance your business, and maximize your profitability. Head to CIBLinsurance.com to learn more about insurance solutions that are specifically designed for your Central Illinois businesses, and to watch our educational videos about work comp, employee health insurance, commercial insurance, and other insurance products to help your business go to the next level. Go to CIBLinsurance.com. We'll see you there.